Thanks very much, Christy. And I'll just start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land that I'm on here in Melbourne, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. Acknowledge this land always was and always will be Aboriginal land, and any Aboriginal leaders joining us online or indeed presenting. My name's Sandro. I'm the CEO here at VicHealth, the Victorian Health Promotion Foundation. We're the world's first health promotion foundation. We're a statutory agency. We're part of government, but we work with government. We're independent from government. And we're established in the late 80s through taxing tobacco, hypothecating that money, protecting it and giving it or entrusting it to an independent statutory agency charged with really addressing the long-term, deep structural barriers and inequities that result in poor health for so many Victorians and indeed Australians. Next slide. We know some of the challenges that we've been talking about already today. We have, multiple converging crises that are beyond the sphere of influence of individuals, maybe even individual governments. Cost of living, a climate crisis, which has seen a dramatic increase in the cost of healthy food over the last 3 years, worsened by a global pandemic, and then a conflict on the other side of the world, making healthier food increasingly unaffordable to so many Victorians, a doubling of food insecurity in just 18 months. We've seen a global shift in modernisation and commodification of our food system over the last 3 decades, and a rise in chronic disease to the point where 1 in 2 Australians are living with chronic disease. 9 in 10 Australians will die from chronic disease, and the average Australian lives with 11 years of pain and suffering as a result of mostly preventable disease outcomes. And we're also seeing enormous inequities. Young people and regional communities in Victoria continue to be left behind. And that's really the focus of one of the programs I want to talk about today. But I think it really is important, first of all, to thank Christy for sharing her lived experience, but also other lived experience experts, the importance of embedding their voices and making sure that this is a truly, lived experience led and respectful conversation, and one that acknowledges that ultimately what we're talking about here is systems change. It's not pointing the finger at the individual. We need to go past blame and shame, and we really even need to go past weight. And that's why we have invested in a range of programs. There will be no single silver bullet when it comes to trying to improve the health and lives of Victorians and address so many of the structural, often intergenerational, commercial, cultural, and economic and social barriers that people face to good health. We've launched in the last few years a local government partnership, which works through local governments, 38 and counting now, embedded in their municipal plans to put the health and lives of young people and the priorities and health priorities of young people at the centre of their municipal plans, backed by money, evidence-based modules and FTE. Soon we'll launch a Lancet series on the commercial determinants of health, a global series which we've helped to drive from here in Australia with a number of partners. We continue to work on important policy outcomes, and I'm hoping that many of you saw our recent collaboration with the ABC, Magda Szubanski, an example of how we're trying to move the national conversation beyond blame and to really a meaningful conversation around how we reshape systems for better health. Next slide. An example I want to share, though, from here in Victoria, which is a really strengths-based, place-based and action-oriented example, is our investment in the VicHealth Future Healthy Food Hubs. This is part of our largest ever single investment in the health, wellbeing and recovery of young people, a $45 million 3-year investment post-COVID, based around the insights of lived experience and led by community champion leaders, young people from across Victoria who've shaped this work. These hubs see the combination of 5 different elements: sustainable production through procuring local, sustainable, healthy food, increasing supply and safeguarding investments for local farmers and producers and bringing down costs, by fostering community connections across cultures, across age groups and across generations, by improving education in local communities, by increasing identity and belonging through safe spaces, particularly for culturally diverse young people, through and with food as the agent of change, and by providing employment pathways for young people to enter the food system, but also as food system entrepreneurs and advocates. in part in partnership with two very well-known social enterprise networks here in Victoria. Next slide. So we've launched these Future Healthy Food Hubs in 7 regional towns across Victoria. They've been built off existing food share programs to maximise the sustainability of what will ultimately be only a 3-year investment for us. And the idea is to really take the insight that young people, we're seeing a huge increase in food insecurity and cost of living pressures for young people, particularly across regional Victoria, that we know that unless people have access to affordable, fresh, healthy, culturally appropriate food where they live, good health is not about choices, it's simply not an option. And so how do we shift that and create place-based solutions that are disrupting local food systems and allowing young people a pathway in, but also leading to scalable, place-based solutions to improve access to fresh, healthy local food. And so whether it's Mildura up in the Food Bowl in the north of Victoria, Geelong, or indeed Toorong, which is out near, sort of halfway to Canberra, these all look very different, including the partnership with the United African Farmers and really working closely through the Ubuntu Food Hub as an example with the African Australian diaspora here in Victoria as well. Next slide. And finally, driving systems change requires a strong system. And so when we had the opportunity to reimagine our offices, this is a plug to you all. We'd love to see you. We reimagined our office space as a social good in and of itself and relaunched VicHealth offices when we moved to the doorstep of the regional transport hub here in Melbourne CBD, as a co-working space for the entire sector. And what this does is it sees us welcome now over 90 partners regularly into the space every week as a co-working space and an opportunity to drive that sort of more systems-based way of working, stronger collaborations, and of course, accountability and respect, all of which are required when we're talking about ultimately addressing this super wicked challenge of chronic disease. Thank you.